Okay, welcome to a live stream this evening. Really, we're going to be focusing on anyone who hasn't had a chance to jump on and talk about the new version of Logic Pro and maybe even the new version of Final Cut, because there's some things we can learn about the Logic Pro from that version. We'll see how many people jump on. This could be just a super short stream. It could be a long stream. We'll just kind of play it by ear. But we'll be talking a little bit about some of the stuff that we've learned today, some of the things we've thought about. We'll do a little recap as well, just so that anyone who's just learning about some of the stuff for the first time can have a chance to get a recap. Essentially, this morning, out of left field, Apple announces the iPad versions of Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro. Both of them will be coming out 2 weeks from today. Both of them are a subscription model. And I do want to talk about that a little bit tonight, because the number one comment I've seen from anybody talking today would be about the subscription and how, if that's the case, then they're not going to use it. And I'm tired of that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, that attitude. Because I get it. I get both sides of this, but people have got to stop just being like, you know what, I'm done. There's a subscription model involved with this. I'm out of here. I mean, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So we'll talk a little bit about my personal views on that, and why I think that it's totally insane. I've got a theory that the people who are saying that the most just happen to be like Reaper users who are just trolling everybody else and making a big deal out of that. That sounds like something a Reaper user would totally do. And if that's the case, I would chuckle about it for sure. Hey, LA Winter, how you doing? And if you have questions or other stuff in the chat, let me know. These streams are, real time, and we can do the back and forth and talk about things. So it doesn't have to, we don't have to stay on topic. It's whatever we want to make out of these streams. The reason why I like to do streams more than anything lately, excuse me, is because of the interaction. It's great to, pull up a video on YouTube and watch someone's content that they made, but I really enjoy more of the back and forth and the interaction that we get with some of these things. So we'll do that. I haven't talked much in the last couple hours. I just sat and watched one of my kids' final choir concerts of the year. And so, 2.5 hours in a dark room listening to people sing sounds like heaven, but we'll see if my throat holds up a little bit. Hey, Maxim, how you doing? Ellie Winter says, this makes me want to buy an iPad Pro. And I think that's the point, right? I mean, Apple's strategy, it seems to me, among other things. So they have many strategies, but one of them is to make great hardware and then find ways to make people buy it, right? And so, I mean, you got to realize that there was some news that came out. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick, because I didn't have it prepped up. But the number one tablet 2023. I think I saw somewhere that one of the other tablets was higher up on the sales list than the iPad. I can't verify that. I have to look it up, but I'm not going to do that right now. But there's definitely some interesting components to the timing of this announcement, which came out earlier than was expected. When we talk about rumors, the rumors were all pointing towards a later release, one that relied on new iPad OS, which turns out doesn't, right? It doesn't rely on the new iOS or iPad OS. It doesn't rely on even having the M1 processor for Logic Pro. So surprise after surprise after surprise. And I'm sure some people knew about this, but dang, this was one of the best kept secrets coming out of Apple recently. You know what I mean? Feels like we always know what's coming, but this one we did not know. And there's some parts of this that I'm super floored about. And I think it's going to be a really interesting experiment. I have a Mac Studio Ultra. I'm not replacing my Mac Studio Ultra with an iPad. 0% chance of that, right? It has one USB-C port on it. And the screen is like this big, right? It's not a big thing. And so I have an M1 Mac or a iPad Pro. I'm super excited that I have one right now and didn't have to go to my financial planner, my wife, and say, gee, I really need one of these iPads right now. I was really happy that I didn't have to do that this week because, if I didn't have a compatible iPad, I was going to have that conversation because this is important to me personally and important to the things I make on this channel. And so, I would have to have bought one. That's the idea. Apple's looking at all of this and saying, you know what? It's close enough. Let's release this. And let's track carefully how many pros are going to buy iPads to run Final Cut. That's almost more important than Logic in some ways because, frankly, there's a lot more money in the video editing world than there is in the music world. I mean, honestly, there is. That's not to say that it's not the case for Logic and music industry. Music industry is a big industry, but most of the albums that are making the most money, and percentage-wise, we're not talking about exceptions to the rule, but most of the big ones are made in big studios, and iPads aren't the thing that's going to make or break those projects. Hey Juan, nice to see you too. I see what you're posting up on Facebook, so it's nice to see you here as well. And Maycott, I don't know all the different specs for each of the iPads, but here's the thing. The M1 and the M2 have a fair amount of RAM in them, right? But they're going to be doing what GarageBand did, presumably, which is cheat the system a little bit and be really smart in its efficiencies. But I was running Logic on a Mac Mini M1 with 8 gigs of the integrated RAM, and it worked like a dream. I mean, it worked like a literal dream. That computer was so good. And the only reason I got the Mac Studio Ultra was for other reasons. A lot of the 360 things and immersive audio and Atmos. That was not good on the Mac Mini M1 with 8 gigs of RAM. Just as I suppose, everybody wait for this, no one's going to be mixing Atmos on an iPad. Not yet, anyway. Eventually, we'll be doing everything on iPads, But right this moment, no one's talking about that feature set in this release. They're talking about, if we go down on this page a little bit, let's go down to the end of this. Round trip compatibility. Easily move your Logic Pro projects between Mac and iPad to create in the studio or on the road. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of that happening right off the bat with some things. Third-party plugins, huge issue. Atmos, that's a big issue. I don't think that the iPad is ready for Atmos. Maybe with the headphones, it's possible, but even with so I was on campus the other day running an Atmos session with a Mac Studio, not the Ultra, but the Max. And it was running into some issues performance-wise. So like 64 gigs of RAM, and it was running into some issues. And so I don't think the iPad is particularly ready for that yet. There was something that somebody pointed out someplace. Let's see. I don't know if it was in these notes or if they found some notes someplace else. But there was a reference that someone found for the round trip compatibility that has to be Logic 10.7.8. And so there is going to be an update to Logic coming out in probably 2 weeks that makes this compatible. My guess, because round trip's going to require plugins on both sides, that will also get the beat deconstructor thing, whatever that's. Let's see, what is that called? The beat breaker. That's actually one of the things I'm most excited for from this whole thing. Let's turn this beat breaker. I love mangling. I love the ability to twist things around, change them, warp them. This is my love language. And so I think that that's going to be amazing. And if it's going to work as a round trip tool, we're going to have to get that in Logic as well. And the same with the Alchemy sampler. I don't know if there was a picture here. There was a picture someplace. Sample Alchemy. This is the new Alchemy interface, which I don't fully understand yet, but it has 4 node points on it. And it's going to be something with those that you can do some tweaking with. That's cool. That's super cool. So Ellie Winter says there are already third-party plugins for iPad that work in GarageBand, and it's true, but they're not the same ones that I run on my Mac Studio, right? We don't have Waves for GarageBand. We only have some of the Eventide. I know Eventide was part of their little video, and there are some Eventide plugins that I have for Mac, and there's those that'll work there. But I don't even know yet if they're going to open up from one to the other and even recognize that it's the same plugin, right? I mean, we just don't know. There's so many things we don't know yet about that. And so I'm hoping that we'll get some of that more sorted out. I hope getting Logic and Final Cut in that format is going to push a bunch of manufacturers and developers to make some new things, and just going to get them re-excited. Because right this moment, we've hit like this plateau, and things aren't being developed on the iPad in terms of music production tools like they were when iPad first came out in the first 5 years of that. There was a lot. It's like Arturia, Korg, all these ones were developing so many cool things, and they all petered out. I'm assuming because, at some point you look at the bottom line and you say, that's not making us very much money compared to what we have to put into it every year when Apple updates iPad iOS. Right? And so that's the issue with an ecosystem that doesn't have truly pro apps. Until now, we'll see about Logic, if it's pro enough to really move people over. So we'll have Cubasis, we'll have still GarageBand, we'll have Logic Pro. There's a new Ableton app which does a lot of things, but it's not Ableton. But it's really cool in terms of prepping up for Ableton projects. But we're short on truly pro apps on this format with the hardware being so good. And now Apple's saying, let's not wait for everyone else to do all this stuff. Like Cubase obviously set the bar in many ways. There's a few other digital audio workstations. There's one I can never remember the name of it. It has a couple versions. Oof, it'll come back to me at some point. I never bought it because by all accounts, it was super buggy. Yeah, so Ellie Winter, there is a set of Waves plugins for Cubasis, but it's just for Cubasis, so they're going to have to make a deal. And Waves is going to have to release them. There's real-time pitch correction and EQ and L1 maybe. I've got them all because I have Cubasis and I bought all the Waves plugins for it. And then the Fab Filter that Q Coletti's talking about, those are some of the best plugins ever in the iOS format in terms of effects. And then Sounds Human says, have I ever used my iPad as an external processor? And technically, I've made a number of videos about using iPad with the IDAM protocol, and I'm hoping with one of these new iPad iOSs that are coming out, and even iOS, that we'll get an expansion of the IDAM protocol. You hook it up with the your normal cable, your charging cable to your computer, and then you have MIDI back and forth, and then audio from the mobile device into your main desktop, which we're not going to need as much anymore. Here's something I'm really hoping. So I've got a number of instruments in iPadOS, a number of synthesizers that all sound great. The Nave Wavetable synth is one of my favorites on the planet. It's amazing. It just sounds great. Functionality, it works great. I'm hoping in Logic for iPad, I can program that instrument in and then hit the freeze button. And then once I have it frozen, I can bring that over to Logic on my desktop and just continue working with it without unfreezing it and still being able to hear it. So that's my goal. That's my hope, at least for the time being, until they get this sorted out. There actually is a Nave version for computer, but it's like I own one. This is the thing that everybody's complaining about today is I already own Logic. Can I get this for free? Well, you don't own Logic for iPad, so stop asking for stuff for free. I'm so tired of the mentality of people wanting stuff for free. If you want stuff for free, or if you want stuff for cheap, you're using the wrong software in the first place. I mean, go to Reaper, right? That's one of the cheapest. They update regularly. You're going to get your itches scratched. If you're doing any work with clients and money, and you have a business out of this, you're not the one saying that typically. It's usually the people who just want to make their beats at home. I'm overgeneralizing. Don't be pissed at me. Don't at me in the comments, right? But you're the kind of person who just wants to do recreational music creation, then use GarageBand or don't. Use something else. $5 a month subscription is nothing. I know some people are going to be like, it's not nothing to me. I'm like, you know what? Skip going out to fast food once a month and make a sandwich. That's the same amount of money you're going to save by that. Okay, so let's talk about pre-Logic current situation. In the old days, when I started as a student and we wanted to do a project on our 2-inch tape machine at the university, and we had to buy our own tape. Not the tape machine. The tape machine we couldn't afford. We're talking $50,000 to $100,000, right, for a tape machine. The tape itself, just the medium we recorded to, I don't remember exact price, but we're like $40, $50, $60 or more, right? Sometimes more for the good stuff and the long format, just for a tape. Now you could say, well, I had like a little cassette recorder, a 4-track or an 8-track cassette recorder, a 4-track. You had to buy cassette tapes, and those were a couple bucks every time you wanted a song. It's like you had to buy a cassette tape. And so it's not free. None of this stuff is free. Stop acting like this stuff should be free. There's people sitting in a dark room, well, in a really nice fancy room at the big Apple building, right? And they're sitting around designing all of this stuff and putting a lot of thought into it, right? They're not just throwing stuff together. They're putting a lot of thought into it. Agree with them or not, like their choices or not. There are people whose whole job is to make this stuff. And then to complain that you have to pay a little bit of money for it. Now, it's some people are like, well, I just want to buy it outright. Well, I mean, okay, you want to buy it outright. What are you expecting to pay for an iPad version of Logic Pro? It's the full thing. It's not the same as the desktop version. You shouldn't just get it for free because you own the desktop version. They're still going to be different in some ways. So do you want to pay the full $200 They could have done that. They could have said, you know what, let's just charge or 150 or whatever it is right now, $200 for the full version. And that's what you get from it. I mean, would that have made you happy? I don't think so. I think the people who are complaining are going to complain either way about it. But the subscription stuff, it's the way of the future. Everything is going that way. Pro Tools, Reason, this. I mean, we're just waiting for like, does Ableton have one? I don't think Ableton has one yet, but we're waiting for it, right? Studio One, a lot of these companies that say they're not going to do it. Oh, they're going to do it. I mean, there's no way around it. Apple, said, I want to make this device called an iPod that plays music. And everyone's like, people have done this. It's not really going to sell. It like revolutionized the world. The iTunes store revolutionized the world. Made it possible for something like Spotify to be even better. You know what I mean? But this is here to stay. Apple is saying, this is the new way. Give us a little bit of money each month and we'll start giving you more content each month. Everyone should be like floored. I don't know if it's going to work out that way, but we should all be floored that Apple wants to do a subscription model each month, because it's like an unwritten contract where we give them a little bit of money and they actually give us new stuff, right? We actually get updates and we get new content. Like, we should all be happy about that part of it, because you all, if you've been using Logic for any period of time, know that Apple just does stuff at their own pace. They don't feel anything that they owe us. And maybe this will actually change a little bit of that at the same time. Okay, I've been ignoring all the comments. Ableton Note, someone's talking about that. Awesome. Ableton Note is cool. I love Ableton. I think Ableton's a smart company that's doing great things, and they don't have quite the bloat that Apple does, right? Let's see. Reaper's community love, and it holds my business. We know the intention of the comment. All good. So everybody, I make fun of Reaper sometimes, but it is in good fun. And that software does stuff that I would dream about Logic doing. Seriously, there is stuff that Reaper can do that makes me jealous deep inside. I could tell you all about that in a different video, but any fun that I make of Reapers is like that. But I will say I made some videos about Reaper in the past, and the community may be a community, but they hate everybody else. They're so vocal in their dislike of other people and other software, so that part they can suck on. But the software itself, I think, is really cool. Let's see. Do I think Native Instruments Complete is worth the money? No, I don't. Some parts of Native Instruments Complete are awesome. I mean, there's some of the stuff that they do is really great, but I think at a point in time they were really good. And I used to use Complete many years ago now. And it's like the thing. They kept on coming back for more money and for functionality that wasn't that much better. And now the stuff that I would have used it for, the sampling, has finally been surpassed by what Logic can do. And Logic can do everything in the sampling realm that I'd ever want. So... And then Sounds Human says, Ableton has no inside talking about subscription. I have the artist relationship with the brand and they still have no comments. I'm not surprised. But at some point, I've talked about this previously on different streams. At some point, the McDonald's mentality gets in. And by McDonald's mentality, I mean, eventually my generation retires. And then the next generation is in my place and they start to retire. And all of the kids who were in grade school, middle school, high school, or whatever school is, grammar school, wherever you live, they all become the professionals. And you know what? They've seen subscription models for everything. Every phone device has a subscription model. And their generation says, what's the big deal? I can turn it on for a month. I can turn it off for a month if I don't want it. It's like a little bit of money now. I don't ever have to spend like $400 to buy a piece of software. I like the subscription model. And so that generation takes over. Just like, and the reason I call it the McDonald's mentality is because, they sell Happy Meals for kids with toys that are cool, right? And so a generation grows up, and then some of them still eat at McDonald's when they're adults, and they take their kids there because they have some nostalgia. And so it's like this thing where McDonald's became this huge, massive company because they had the long game in mind. And at some point, even Ableton is going to realize that it's okay to do subscription models. It's just their core audience right this second doesn't like them that much. Apple doesn't care about you and me individually. They're playing the long game with all of this. They're playing the long game about how do we make this not just a successful business, but how do we make so much money that nobody else is close. I'm sorry, that's like their mentality. They love having their earning calls and getting all their stocks worth like $1 bazillion. And there's an expectation that that's going to continue. And something like this, while it's like feels good because we finally have Logic on an iPad, there's still the bottom line for this company. And giving stuff for free, like what it seems like a majority of people online feel like it should happen, is totally asinine because it took time to get this. It's like their product. They made a tablet work. They made Logic do what it does. And now they're combining them in this way that nobody else has really been able to do, supposedly. I'll tell you more in 2 weeks. Ellie Winter says, excited for the new browser. Me too. They played that up a lot, but they're showing all the content they've already had in the formats. But the drag and drop functionality from the browser is something everyone's been talking about. So now, I believe, this is what it looks like, we're going to be able to drag and drop effects from the browser and effects chains. And so, touch, drag, let go, and it pops up on those tracks. Everyone's been talking about that for years. Everyone says, oh, Studio One is so good, it has drag and drop. Well, Logic does too. Woohoo! It doesn't matter which software you use. But this is going to be something different with all the multi-touch experience. And it's going to be great. Even if it's not great day one, Apple is invested in making this work. So they're going to be fixing it and updating it. And the new, what are those things called? I can't remember. The tiles. Those are super smart. These little things right here that show us the plug-in things. Working in an interface with limited size and making it work. We should have tiles in Logic. We don't need all of the options for all the plugins right in front of us all the time. And then we can go into them and use them more. So I hope some of these things come to the desktop version as well. Let's see. Maybe we could talk about a collab for Reaper Logic Video. We should. We could totally do that. I can't promise I'm going to say all nice things, but it's interesting. I think the two pieces of software are interesting. Let's see. Don't you feel like a subscription is on an ongoing expense? I would rather own it. So, JD, that's the thing. I don't personally care. Personally, I'm in a little different place than many people, though. I'm the first one to admit, it's like I don't watch every penny I spend every month to make sure that my books line up, right? I've gotten to that place. I've worked super hard to get to that place. I spend a lot of time at my day job making sure I'm really darn good at it, which is teaching audio production at a university. I've been there for 17 years, and I work super hard at it. I'm very careful, and I think, that part of my life is in a place. So not everybody might be in that place. Some people might think, you know what, I don't need another ongoing expense. And so if that's the reason, or, nobody owns software. There's no guarantee that you owning Logic means it's going to work on your computer in 5 years. Your computer could die. Logic could shut it down. I mean, Logic has shut things down in the past. If all of a sudden one day they wake up, Tim Cook retires and the new CEO says, we have a new direction and we're going to be moving in it, then they could shut Logic down. They wouldn't sell it. They would kill it. So, there's no guarantee. If for me, paying $5 a month means that I can get more content on a regular basis from Apple because they feel like that they need to reciprocate. They're taking our money every month, so they need to give us new things every month. I'm 1,000% on board with that. I'm so on board with them feeling like they owe us something because we're doing a subscription every month. If 3 months go by and nothing happens and we're just paying money to them, I might stop using it because that's not what I'm interested in. It's like Reason Plus. I'm a subscriber for Reason Plus, and they give out new content all the time. They're about to release a really cool new instrument, like this week or next week. I think it's this week, and it looks amazing. I'm gonna make a video about it. It looks really cool. I pay a subscription. That comes to me with no additional stuff. I never pay an update. They give me all the updates as a part of the subscription. I never think about it. It always works. I always get new content. I love that. It's like the best $20 a month. $20 for a set of plugins. We're talking about $5 for Logic Pro on an iPad. It's pretty cheap. Now, everyone can say, well, it's going to get more money. Well, everything could get more money, except that's not the trend. It's like when I first started using Logic, it was like $1,000 or more. And it came with like a set of DVDs in a box. And I did like the box. The box was cool. And the manuals were cool. All that stuff was cool. And then the box got smaller. It got less money. Then it was a digital download. It got less money. It's cheaper now than it's ever been. And now you can get a version of Logic, almost the full version, on an iPad for $5 a month or $50 a year. Dude, that's amazing. That's cheaper as an entry cost than it's ever been, except for you have to buy an iPad, which is still cheaper than a Mac Studio Ultra, right? We're looking at very affordable. You don't even have to get the M1. There's like the A12 Bionics, which are a couple years old now. You can get one of those and run it on there. I don't know how well, but it's compatible. Let's see. Logic really needs to scale lock and piano roll. Hopefully they'll do that. Will this come out at 12:01? No, probably will not come out at that moment. JD says it's like a gym membership. Cool. And technically, JD, I know this is semantics, but nobody owns any software. You just have a license to use it. And if you read the fine print, it pretty much says that they can revoke that license at any time for any reason. You're just renting it in a different way. And sure, you can like reinstall it or do whatever, but you don't own the code ever. It's like they own it no matter what. It's just we're paying in different ways. That's the only difference. It will have some sort of piano roll for sure. Although I haven't, it's a good question. Let's see if we see any pictures of it here. Plugin tiles. Maybe we don't. I don't know if I've seen any photos. I've seen the step sequencer. It has to. I mean, even GarageBand has a MIDI editor that's like a piano roll. So it has to. But I just haven't seen it in any of the pictures. So, good question. It has to. It has to. Because it's like I said in GarageBand. But it's really suspicious that there are no photos of it. But they told us that there's sidechain routing, which is one of the most ridiculous things. If they don't have sidechain routing, it's not even a professional audio app. So thank goodness it's at least meeting that bare minimum. Let's see, Logic Pro. Someone has found online that you have to have 10.7.8 to work with this version of Logic. So there will be some sort of version of Logic update either at the same time or the day before or, the week after. Every once in a while, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Apple says, here's a new feature for your phone. And it's like a handoff feature that works with your desktop or your laptop or just Mac OS 10, right? And they're like, it's all going to work perfectly together. We're releasing iOS right now, and then Mac OS 10 will come out in like 2 months. And so there's like this 2-month time when it doesn't work together. It's always a possibility, but my guess is that we'll get something in the next 2 weeks, either right at the same time or hopefully like a few days before so we can get it all updated. Let's see. So what's the big new feature that will come with Logic 11? Something Atmos? I don't think so. I think Atmos is kind of peaked in its time for the moment. The full functionality is there. They want to have that platform mature, so maybe some more effects will come for Atmos. But my guess is that the big thing that'll come in 11 will be they're going to probably buy a number of companies that do AI, machine learning type stuff, EQs that are clever, compression that does things automatically, some more instruments. I'm excited. Let's see. One of the things they said on here, where is it? Create and produce music in any genre. They effing better make the drummer have some more styles, if that's what they're going to say on this. Seriously, create and produce music in any genre. If they're just like saying, no, well, you can record any group you want. Okay, sure, but I hope that they actually add some more functionality in genres. Jazz, even decent country, metal, right? It's like all of these genres that they've completely ignored. And then they say create and produce music in any genre. Well, okay. We'll see. Yeah, I've got some of the Empirical Lab plugins. I like those. I was on a call with Empirical Labs, a Zoom call. I'm like on some sort of advisory committee to give them feedback. And so I've got something from theirs that they sent me with as a part of that, which was kind of cool. Good stuff. But I'm still 99% of the time using stock plugins on Logic for some very sincere reasons. And I'm going to be talking about that when this iPad version comes out, because at the beginning it's all going to be so important to not be using tons of third-party stuff if you want to go back and forth. But I'm tired. I'm tired of companies saying that they sell something and then later, not updating it in a timely way. I'm just so sick of that. And so I've changed my mentality and my workflow to be more in line with the tools that I know are going to consistently get me where I need to go. The drum breaker is like, there are a few other plugins that are out there like this. One in FL Studio. Where is it? Quick sampler, drum breaker. So it's like a time and pitch manipulator where you can drag all these different elements and it'll like speed up, slow down, pitch up and down all of the different parts of that according to slices. So this is going to, I'm sure it's going to further expand what flex, time, and pitch do, but it's in a different interface. And so I think that interface is going to be one of the best parts of this whole new thing. Yeah, egoist. I've heard that from a number of people. Exactly. Gross beat, maybe in FL Studio. It's like something that if you're going to have a beat making piece of software that Logic wants to be, you have to have something like this, and they just haven't. So, huge addition. Really great. What other comments or thoughts? We have a number of people on. Thanks for all showing up. I think it's important to talk about this stuff and to think about it. This we won't talk about it all that much for the next 2 weeks. Because there's nothing much to talk about for the next 2 weeks. Let me look this up real quick. So there was another thing. There's some rumors coming out from Mark Gurman who said that the new AR VR headset from Apple is likely to be able to run Logic Pro and Final Cut because of the hardware that's on that thing. Okay, you have my attention. Right? I wouldn't mind getting a headset that runs Logic. I'm not going to do it like at the airport or on a flight someplace, but if I could have, the interface around me, then that'd be kind of cool. Let's see. I'm typing in a search. Somebody was saying that there were some release notes for the iPad version, and I haven't seen them. So the actual release notes, I don't know if I can find them while I'm streaming, but because I haven't seen them down on here. Oof. Yeah, they're not there. We'll have to see. I'll have to look for them a little bit. Somebody had referenced them and that Logic would be updated to 10.7.8. And I believe it, but until I actually see it, I don't know. Limited stuff on this webpage. So Totigrus is saying about the same routing. Apparently, mostly. So let's go back down here to the mixer, right? It's hard to say from this image. We know it has track stacks and side chaining and buses, which means there's aux tracks. Do you know what it's not going to have, everybody? It's not going to have an environment. There's no way. There's no way they're bringing the environment to this. I also don't see any MIDI effects. So I don't know about that. It'd be interesting to see what that looks like. Yeah, I mean, the environment, I don't know if sucks is the right word. It's old. And yet I've used it still this last year like 2 or 3 times. So we'll see. But that worries me a little bit that I don't see any MIDI effects. There's got to be. maybe they're now available on both types and in both slots. So on the screen here, I see ensemble, limiter, compressor, channel EQ, stereo delay, modern wah, fat effects, chroma verb. Whew. Okay, there's one I don't know. Oh, is Double Dragon? Is that one of the pedals? What is Double Dragon? Or is that a third party? Who knows what Double Dragon is? It's a pedal. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Huh. So, not enough information here. Let's see. Ooh, touch controls. Pro mixer. So, is that different? No, okay. There's like a whole nother row here on this one that I can't see what it is because it's fuzzy. Let's push play. I don't know. Okay, let's go up to the other video that they released at the beginning, if I can find it. Oh. Where are you? Let's see, under effects. They don't show any MIDI effects there. Yeah, I'm guessing. Watch the film. Let's turn off the sound. So that is one thing that I saw. They have the performance things that we had in GarageBand and even in the Logic Pro app. So you can come through and like strum a guitar and things. So that's, I mean, okay. So that's the mixer pulled all the way down. And that's the beat breaker, which again is super cool. Oh, let's go back to that for 1 second. What is that thing? Peak 3 factor. So there's like a big knob here to maybe dial it in a little closer. Okay, cool. And we're also wondering if you have to use the Apple Pencil to draw automation, which would not be a surprise. But I hope you can also use your finger. Okay, then we go on to that, which is Final Cut. Not a lot of information. They were really careful to not show anything cool. Okay, who knows? We have more questions. To Tigris, it's not even weird at all. In fact, I've been talking about how when Logic comes to the iPad, it's going to be GarageBand with expanded features, and that's exactly what they did. And so you shouldn't be surprised at all. It's just expand it out with all of the hooks in the right place so that the sessions can go back and forth. Which is why there's a chance they won't have MIDI effects because they don't have MIDI effects in GarageBand. Anyway, I think this is a good time. We've been going for about 50 minutes. Oof. So, Dr. Voodoo, do you have a link to the release notes? Because I haven't seen them. Let me see down here. So requires GarageBand or iOS 16, Apple Pencil. Watch that. Require. Yeah, I don't see anything about that there. Yeah, I don't see him. I'm at the bottom. Oh, the announcement. Okay. Eesh. So let me find it real quick. History earlier today. Nope, not that one. Earlier today, Apple. No, let me find. I was there earlier. Let me see if I can find it. Then here's the newsroom. Right there. Okay, cool. It was on the newsroom page. 10.7.8 and macOS 12.3. Cool. Yeah, the links don't come through in the chat of live streams because they're worried you're going to be sending links that you shouldn't be. Okay, cool. So 10.7.8 for round trip, which means that'll have to come out if they want it to work at the same time. And I don't think there was any other additional photos here that I didn't see on the other page. I think they're all the same. What is this one? Let's see. Oh, so that's the retro synth. We have these performance pads. And still no signs of any MIDI effects. If they get rid of those in this, I'm going to just scratch my head. Weird. Okay, let's pull the plug on this. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope this was useful to, talk and vent. And more to come in 2 weeks. We'll be making some other videos. I'm going to make a video about the iPad Pro this week, I think, and talk about, some of the tools and plugins that are currently available there to get people excited. But that'll be the extent of it. Okay, bye everybody.